My name is JDMartin, and I'm from Highway Church of Christ in Searcy, Arkansas. I want you to think for a second, what is the worst thing that you've ever eaten? Mine would have to be something that we all experienced this week at Hut. We were given this opportunity to experience a third world lifestyle. We were given money and sent to a market without knowing what food would be available. When we got there, we found that there were these starches, rice and beans and different types of vegetables. Well, I don't know how everyone else's experiences were, but our group of 6 ended up with a bag of rice and a single mango. With these supplies, we made our rice and then mixed in the mango with the rice. What we did wrong was we put the mango in too fast, and the heat cooked the sugar out of our mango. This created a very yellow mush. This mush was almost impossible to eat. Being hungry, we ate it all. We not only experienced this lack of seasoning at Hut, but the lack of light as well. We slept in these mud huts with no electricity and not even a lamp to give us some light. This experience really put into perspective the importance of salt and light in our day-to-day lives. I want to focus today on the idea of influence and the way Jesus calls us to use salt and light to have this influence on the world and people around us. In Matthew 5:13 through 16, during the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men." He goes on saying, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Therefore, let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." Let's look at the importance of salt and the application it would have had on the audience gathered around Jesus. Salt was detrimental to the lives of these people. They used salt to preserve meat as a fertilizer, a way to treat infected wounds, and as we mostly know it, as a condiment. Salt can do all these things, but in today's world, many of us only know it as a condiment, something that adds flavor or something that makes a meal better. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells us that we are the salt of the earth. Well, if we are to be the salt of the earth, what does Jesus expect us to do? Well, salt adds flavor and has all these amazing qualities. Us as Christians are to add flavor to the world. Many people think that, well, does that mean I have to go on a big mission trip, or do I have to go knock doors every day? Well, I'm here to tell you that while these things are really good opportunities to be a Christian influence each day of your life. This could be as simple as standing up when all of your friends are doing something you shouldn't. It's being the one to say, "Come on guys, let's do something different." Now you might get ridiculed or kicked out of a friend group, but if you're being a positive influence, and by doing this, you are adding flavor to the world. We can also make the mistake of being too salty. This can take place by telling people too often that they're wrong, and this can actually be very discouraging and does not add flavor to the world. One thing we must also remember about salt is that it must come into contact with what you want it to affect. It does not work from a distance. We can't be this influence if we do not put forth the effort to go out and come in contact with the world on a daily basis. Jesus also calls us to be the light of the world. What does this mean for our lives? Light is a powerful thing, and even the tiniest bit of it can change an entire room. Have you ever stood in a room so dark that you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face? And as you stood there, one of your friends lit a match. Did you notice how much difference that one little match made? It was huge. Jesus is calling each one of you to be that one little match. We are called to be different and let our light shine. You know what happens when enough matches get together? The flame gets bigger. And the flame just keeps on growing as more matches are added to it. When I think about this spreading of our Christian light, I instantly think of a trip I had to trek in Colorado. I remember asking our youth minister at BB what level of mountain we were going to be spending our week on. Me, of course, being all confident, wanted it to be a really hard mountain. And he informed me that he had requested a fairly easy one, so I was pretty disappointed. Well, we get to trek in Colorado, and we make it up to our mountain. And while I thought the hike was bad up to the mountain, I was nowhere prepared for what our summit attempt would be like. While we were on the mountain, they actually informed us that this was not one of their easiest mountains. It was actually one of their hardest ones, and because it was so hard, they had not actually made a single summit attempt in a long time with campers. The youngest of our group was a kid named Calvin, and he was only 14 years old. He was actually the younger brother of one of our guides that had decided to come with his mom. Now they got us up really early one morning to make our summit attempt. When I say that first hill was straight up, it's really hard to put it into words. The only way to get up this hill was called the zigzag method. Halfway up this hill, and this was only the beginning to a long 12-hour hike, I turned around and I saw that Calvin was leaning against the side of the mountain crying while his mom held him. He was saying to his mom and brother that he could not go on and that he was done. Several of us got really close to Calvin, encouraged him, and helped him up that mountain for the rest of the day. I watched our entire group encourage Calvin through one of the hardest things I've ever done, and something I would not have done at that age. It really shows that being the light of the world is not just about standing out in the world, but also encouraging each other through that, and light can grow and gain strength. I believe this is what God is calling us to do, to live our lives in such a manner that because of our actions, more matches are added to the flame. It just continues to grow. Just as we can be too salty, there's also a way for us to have too much light. We can have too much light by showing too much pride in the works that we accomplish. We don't want to shine for ourselves. We want to shine for the Lord. Remember that we want to be a Christian influence to the world? Well, the best definition I found was from Oxford Languages. It states, influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something. I really like this word capacity. Whether or not we know it, we all have the capacity to make an impact on the world. I want to give you a couple questions to think about as you leave here today. How much capacity does your life have to influence the people around you? Are you creating ways for your life to have influence on others? Maybe there's something that you've learned here this week at Crusoe that helps you understand your capacity to use your influence on the world. To wrap things up, it's not hard to look around and see chaos and evil everywhere you go. And I know at times you can be tempted to hide your light and not add flavor to the world. And to stand out, I invite you, everyone here, to strive to have a Christian influence on the world and to stand out that you are known as people of Jesus Christ. I invite you to be salt and light.